Happy Friday, everyone. I hope you guys all had a fantastic week. We made it through another one of quarantine. If you guys are new here on the YouTube channel, I'm your host, Tanner Holmes, and today we're gonna actually be making a video on the racetrack we have in our backyard. If you guys have been a fan here on the YouTube channel since it started back in September of 2016, you've seen a few videos of us racing out here on the racetrack with our outlaw carts, with a few quads, in the snow, many different circumstances we've used this, but since then we've had a super busy schedule as we get into the upper classes in the outlaw carts and into the sprint cars and racing at bigger tracks and traveling more. We haven't got to use it as much as we like to. And today here on the YouTube channel, I wanted to show you guys some footage of us racing out here, as well as give you a backstory on why my dad built this racetrack here in the backyard, and give you guys an update because we are now kind of in the process of building it back up to the point where we're going to do some racing on it again here over the next few weeks. Now, to first give you guys a little bit of a tour of this thing if you've never seen it before, like I said, I have not made a video out here in well over a year. I'll link every video that I've made out here on the channel in the description below if you guys just want to go check it out. A lot of those were when my channel was so new and just getting started, so it doesn't look anything like the Tanner you guys now have today. But this is what we would consider turns 3 and 4 down here. Now the flag stand would technically be right over here somewhere. And to get the story started of why my dad wanted to have a racetrack in our backyard is, if any of you have ever met my dad, John, he is a serious guy. If we're gonna get into something, if we're gonna play football, we're gonna give football our all and we're gonna commit to it. If we're gonna play basketball or baseball, we're gonna commit. If we're gonna race, we are gonna commit. And so what he ended up doing is we started going down to the Red Bluff Outlaws, racing there in beginner box and box stock, and he wanted any way to just get more laps on a track like Red Bluff, so he decided to replicate it here in our backyard. So fortunate enough with the business that my dad owns, he had access to every single tool he was gonna need to make all of this happen. So back in about 2011, 2012, they got started, they got the plans for everything they were gonna do, and they pretty much cut this thing out of the hillside here, and they just got to work. They didn't necessarily do it over a few months. It more took about a year or two, just whenever they had time to get out here and work on it. And we were just kind of getting into the box stock class at Red Bluff, so it was perfect timing, anything to get me more laps and get me more comfortable. So my dad, what he did is when we were at Red Bluff, he measured the inside, he measured the middle, and he measured the outside around the top so he could make this thing dead on, right to the perfect measurements of Red Bluff. So the only thing that we weren't able to replicate perfectly out here on this racetrack was the banking of Red Bluff. On the bottom there's a negative slope, and then as it goes up to the crease, it's obviously positive banking, and we weren't able to do that on this racetrack. Ours is more just kind of gradually goes up, but still as a box stock driver, and then Carly was just getting into beginner, it was very beneficial to have this track to get laps every single weekend after the races. Now we are here on the back straightaway, and obviously this thing is not in tip-top shape. It definitely needs some work. It's not like it was when it was in its prime in 2013 to 2016, but that's gonna be our project over the next few weeks. Now, being from Oregon, we get a lot of rain here each year, and it's very unpredictable. Sometimes we won't have any snow in the winter, and then it will randomly snow in April like it did this year, or we'll just have a really heavy snowfall in January and February. And we just have random things on the racetrack like this. Some critters are definitely living out here. But now we are down here in turns 1 and 2 to give you guys a good look at the racetrack. As you can see, the banking just barely slopes up here, and then towards the top, it kind of flattens off. Obviously, you couldn't run very far up the racetrack. The fastest line, especially with no cones or no berm or anything, was literally just having your left front on the grass and just trying to putt around the bottom. Carly and I had many fun battles out here doing like leader runs the top, but like I said, it's very easy to slip off the edge and almost get into the fence. So one of the most interesting features about the racetrack here in our backyard is the front stretch wall. On the back stretch, it looks like any other racetrack. We have a chain link fence that goes all the way around from turns 1 and 2, down the back straightaway, and into turns 3 and 4. But since this thing was cut out of the hillside, check out the front stretch wall. If someone was racing you really hard and put you into the front straightaway wall, I'm not even sure what would happen. Definitely an interesting feature for sure, and I think it's actually really, really neat. I do remember a few times practicing here in box stock, if you got a little bit too high, your right sides would kind of get up on it. It would really upset the race car, and definitely something you haven't seen at any racetrack before, at least I haven't. So to get back to the story of why we built this place, it was very helpful in the box stock days to figure out how to carry speed around Red Bluff, as this place was very very similar in size, how to keep momentum up, where the lifting points were. So all of that really transferred over, but where I think it was most helpful was in 250, because a box stock's a very small car, not a lot of horsepower, but when you move up into 250, your car is much larger and you have a lot of tire spin. So before I ever turned a lap around the Red Bluff Outlaws in a 250, I ran many around this place, and it just helped me so much because when I showed up to Red Bluff, I had the confidence like I had already done it before. It was nothing new running a 250 around there. I had already adjusted to the speed and the size of the racetrack. Now, other purposes for it, we would do a lot of testing to kind of figure out what would be fast, try something on this car, try it on Carly's car, and then when we showed up to the racetrack, we didn't have to play around with things. We already had a really good baseline of what we wanted. But other than that, that's really why we built this racetrack in the first place. I shouldn't say myself, I should say my dad really had the idea. He did everything, put it into motion, and now we have a racetrack here in our backyard that has kind of been abandoned over the past few years, but like I said, we're in the process of getting it back together. So now the question arises, what is next for this racetrack? Well, there's many different things that need to be done. We figured first off, we need to kind of get the weeds situation under control. It's a little bit overgrown still, and there's a few things that need to be done there. We just recently got all this mowed, so that looks really, really nice. But we feel the next step after we get that under control is we need to bring in some new clay. And the material that is out on the racetrack right now was brought in around 2013. So it has been 6 or 7 years. And if you guys have ever helped maintain your local racetrack or you have your own racetrack in your backyard, you know just over time you get less and less to work with the material. But that is really all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed me showing you guys the little racetrack we have here. As we're on the back stretch, I just wanted to show you, this is our little fence. Thank goodness we have it, because if you were to fly off, who knows where you would end up down there. Now it is starting to rain, so I'm gonna head inside, but I do wanna leave you with this today. What do you think we should name this racetrack? We're kinda up on a hill here, so maybe you can incorporate that into the name or use our last name, Holmes, but whatever your idea is, comment down in the description below, and I wanna pick one of those so we can give this place a name. But hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. There's gonna be many more involving this racetrack since we still have 4 or 5 weeks probably left of this quarantine thing. Then we'll be back to a real racetrack here soon. See you guys all in the next video. Thank you. Deuces.